Mark.
Yeah, and Lena, just to give you a little background here, you'll remember back in January, the TTC added 80 police officers who were working overtime. This was a program that was implemented after just a string of violent, random, and sometimes deadly attacks that we've been seeing on the TTC for a long time. But this new data is showing that during that time that we had those officers in place on the TTC, there was a slight drop in terms of the numbers of incidents, dropped from 136 in January to 111 in February, just as an example. I want to bring in TTC spokesperson Stuart Green to talk a little bit more about this new data that we're learning about today. Stuart, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, Mark.
So first of all, what's your take on this new information that we're getting, especially considering the fact that this program was only in place for a couple months, but we did see that drop in the number of incidents when it comes to violence on the system?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we're encouraged by any drop in numbers of incidents like this. We're not taking that for granted, certainly. But I think it's really indicative of the work that we've been doing for several months, not just these first 2 months of the year. I mean, we've started deploying extra staff into stations. We've, of course, had the police presence, but we've got extra social workers and street outreach program workers as well. So there are a number of things that we're doing that have, that are seeming to show some promise here, and they're definitely being effective. But I wouldn't take 2 months as indicative of any sort of significant trend. It's encouraging. We're optimistic, obviously, but safety is always our top priority. So we'll continue to watch these numbers very carefully. We'll continue to assess our programs that we've implemented, and we'll continue to work with all the partners that we've been working with, including Toronto Police and others, throughout the last few months.
How much of a role do you think these officers played in terms of that drop? I mean, 80 officers is significant, especially when you consider how big the system is at large. All of them there, that presence that we saw, how much of a role do you think that played in at least some of the drop that we saw?
Well, yeah, so I mean, I think it's important to sort of keep in mind that it was always up to 80. Toronto Police had committed to up to 80, and that was on a voluntary overtime basis. What they've done now is redeployed officers through on-duty through the regular rotation and the regular on-duty operation. So that's good news. Clearly that did have a role, but as I say, we've got a lot of other things that we're doing as well. So we thank police and we appreciate them being there, but we also have to acknowledge that there are other people in the system, including our employees. We've got more TTC employees in stations doing work now. We've got the additional police resources. We've got additional security. We've got additional street outreach workers. So all of this is part and parcel of a longer term solution. So I'd be hesitant to pull out exactly what, how important the police were, except to say that they're obviously part of this very significant and very complex response that we have.
Sir, would you like to see more of those officers brought back?
So the officers have not gone away. I have to keep saying this. I know that people think they've gone away.
The thing is, Stuart, I just want to stop you for one quick second. They're no longer part of that program. So in terms of the 80 off-duty officers, they have been phased out. Do you want to see more of them phased back in?
Mark, they have not. The Toronto police officers are still very much on public transit
all
today,
80?
as they were in January. The 80 was an up to number that Toronto police said they would try and deploy on overtime voluntary basis. What we're saying is that they are still there. They are still part of the longer term solution. Absolutely.
So how many are there right now on the system?
You'd have to check with police on that.
Okay, so you're saying, though, that number hasn't changed. So in terms of a program that you guys confirmed was phased down.
I didn't say the program hasn't changed. I said, okay, that's not what's happened. Police have moved to an on-duty deployment model instead of a voluntary overtime model.
Right. So would you like to see more off-duty officers on the system?
So there are Toronto Police as part of the solution. We've got more security staff. We've got more TTC staff. So there are more visibly more people there to both respond and to deter any acts.
Would you like to see more?
Well, we have more. We have more of everything. We have more security guards.
Do you think you have enough?
Street outreach workers. No, we don't have enough. I mean, what's the right number?
I guess that's a question for you guys to determine. But Stuart Green, I really appreciate your time this afternoon and your insight, as always.
Sure. Thank you.
So as you can see there, Lena, obviously this is an issue that's still ongoing. We know there's been a number of incidents, including a 16-year-old who was killed at Keele Station just a couple weeks ago, 16-year-old boy. So again, these incidents are not going anywhere.
Okay, Mark Liverman reporting live in studio. Thank you for that, Mark. It's